Welcome to another episode of the Forgotten Athlete podcast. This episode is a little bit different, it's off schedule from our regularly programmed podcast. This is about the Lakers. So if you don't care about the Lakers, FYI, this whole tidbit is going to be about the Lakers. And I just want to say a couple things just to get things started. It was a great game yesterday. I had a fantastic time watching the game. Um, it was similar to past games. It was a great way to sum up our season, though. The way it ended, the way it started, from us having the lead, from us losing the lead, from just bad errors by the team, by the coach. It was just a great sum of all these events. And today is going to be more about the Lakers and what they need to do or what I think they need to do to address to be better. And I'll talk about the latest article to come out from the Athletic by Jovan. Shout out to Jovan. I used to hate on him a lot, but he's been probably the best Laker, best person that covered a Laker we've had in a minute. He's very passionate. He cares about the team a lot, and he's not afraid to ask tough questions. So Jovan, we appreciate you here, Laker Nation, and keep on doing great work. Um, but there's a couple of things just about last night before I get into the article that kind of pissed me off. Just from the first quarter, and it has a lot to do with just our flow, our rhythm. And yesterday seemed like we had a good understanding of what was going on in terms of what the game plan was. It looked like it was just attack the paint, and to push the ball, push the pace. Saw numerous times of Phil Handy, Darvin Ham telling guys to push after a made basket. And look what they're doing that. I don't want to discredit what the Lakers have done or were doing yesterday that were successful. What I will say is that there was a lot of things that was done that was not successful, and those are the things that we never addressed throughout the season. Whether it be rebounding, whether it be not calling timeouts when the team goes on an 8-0 run, whether it be not helping out your defenders, not playing help defense, whether it be letting guys shoot wide open threes. I mean, the list goes on what went wrong for the Lakers. And I think that's a thing that kind of makes me okay to know that, hey, like this team was not the team that it was supposed to be in the offseason. And that's okay. I think us as Laker fans, we waste our time trying to figure out, ways that we can improve our current roster. And sometimes it's just not meant to be. Like sometimes the team isn't good enough, and this team is not good enough. And there's a lot of things that Jeanie Buss has to answer. The Buss family has to answer in terms of getting a uh, a team that is going to compete and a team that's going to be um, successful, better than the seventh seed. And before I get to that, I want to talk about the game yesterday because last night I think Jamal Murray just kind of proved to himself that he proves it not to himself, proved to everybody that he is a great point guard. He's been doing it for the past like 3 seasons, four if you count the bubble. And I just feel like it as if Jamal Murray is just one of the best point guards in the league. And I keep on saying that. I said that last year. I'm saying it again this year. Hopefully people start realizing that before it's too late. But he is legit one of the best scoring point guards in the league. He can score from anywhere. He's a three-level scorer. He can pretty much defend any position. I mean, he defended LeBron on switches. I mean, I can see him switching on Anthony Edwards and him holding his own, or him switching on even Carl Anthony Towns and him holding his own. So there's just a lot of things that Jamal Murray brings to the game that I think that the scoreboard doesn't show all the time, even though he gets his 25, whatever the points he gets. Michael Porter was another person that I didn't see doing what he did. I feel like he always kills us, especially because he gets wide open shots. But his shot is just it's you can't block it. His shot, his rhythm, his focus. You can tell he has perfectly crafted his shot, and he's been doing it since he was since he was a little kid. I mean, he has his shot is unorthodox. It's over his head. It's not the way you're supposed to shoot the ball, but it works for him. And literally, he has probably the most consistent jump shot in the NBA in terms of just his the way he shoots the ball. I'm not talking about percentage. I'm talking about the way he shoots the ball. It's always the same way. No matter if he's fading away, no matter if he's shooting just straight up, no matter if he's falling away from the basket, he's always shooting the ball the same exact direction. So, shout out to Michael Porter. Another big shout out to Jokic. Listen, I know I kind of went, I mean, viral for me, over 100 views, by claiming that he's not a top five center of all time. I still stand by that. I don't think he's there yet. I think if he wins a couple more trophies in terms of just NBA finals, not MVP, I think he can get there. But Jokic just proved again that he is more dominant than AD, and he's just a better big man out of the two. Now, there's going to be people that are my comments that are going to be, probably mad about what I'm saying right now, but I think AD has 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 well at least proven in this series against Jokic that he is the better scorer, and he's the better finisher, he's the better defender. But in terms of better overall basketball, like making your teammates better, doing what's right for the team, getting rebounds. I think Jokic proved that he's the better player in that regard. But you can't tell me that Jokic is a better scorer than AD because he's not. He proved to us that he's not. He averaged 30 across the board, except from last night game, had 17. But I think at the end of the day, AD proved that he can kind of hold his own against Jokic. And now I'm giving Jokic praise, so I don't want to, ruin that by giving AD praise at the same time. Jokic is still one of the best big men of all time, and he's the best big man in the game right now. With that being said, I think Rudy Gobert and the T-Wolves are going to cause some issues for the Nuggets. We'll talk about that later on across the way. But I do think the T-Wolves are going to win that series. And it's not because I think Jokic is a bad player. It's just because I think consistently this playoffs, at least the playoffs, Denver has not shown that they can shoot from outside. They're shooting below 30% from the outside. Last night was one of the only games they shot over 30% from the three in this series so far. And also, Denver hasn't shown that they can defend the three at all. I know Lakers miss a lot of threes, but there's a lot of wide open threes that we miss. I mean, and two are much better 3-point shooting team. You give Conley those looks, they're going in. You give McDaniels a look, honestly. McDaniels has been shooting a lot better from the 3-point frame. They're going in. But back to the Lakers, because I know this is strictly about the Lakers, Laker Nation. I think we need to do a better job in terms of managing our team and trying to figure out what we're doing each quarter. I was listening to the Gilbert Arenas podcast today while I was working, and one of the things I caught them saying was that every player, at least from their perspective, when they were playing, like because it's Kenny Martin, him, Brandon Jennings, Rashad McCants, they all played at a high level. They're all saying that pretty much every player knows their role by quarter, or just in general. Like, hey, if you're a guy who scores in the first quarter, your first quarter is the time to roll. And it made me think like JJ Redick said the same thing, maybe on one of his podcasts where he was saying that pretty much Doc Rivers made him a first quarter scorer. I'm like, oh, that's true. Like everybody, but when the fourth quarter came around, it was the Chris Paul and the pick and roll show pretty much. With the Lakers, that doesn't exist. Like yesterday, I'm just remembering the game. Like Spencer Dinwiddie was taking shots in the fourth quarter. He did it again when we lost game three. No, game two. It was game two. He was taking those shots in the fourth quarter. And I just feel like when AD said what he said in terms of, hey, like I don't think he said something along the lines of them not knowing what they're doing sometimes on offense. People say that was a shot at Ham. I don't think it was a shot. It was more of just him telling the truth and him saying that, hey, guys don't have roles in this offense, and this is an issue. And similar to the things with Frank Vogel, when you have guys who don't have roles on offenses, you're not going to be successful offensively. You're just not. You may have games where, hey, Spencer Dinwiddie gets his 2 3-pointers, but he's not supposed to be taking those shots every game. Like he's just not. But yeah, I just feel like this team needs a new face, and this is where I get to the Athletic article by Jovan. Let me pull it up real quick. And I take some screenshots, so I'm not gonna say everything, but there's some things that I'll probably quote right now, and you'll see. But one of the things that I took from was when the Lakers started off with Prince, they were 24 and 25, right, through 49 games. And then they benched Prince, right? So once they benched Prince, when Prince played less than 25 minutes, they were 28 and 8. And I want to get to this because this is one of the things where I'm just like, it's kind of too good to be true, kind of type of situation, but also it's just a matter of fact that um Darvin didn't know what he was doing, or he did know what he was doing, and he just trusted the wrong people. And I want to talk about Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish for a second here. Cam Reddish was a starter for us. He started earlier in the season. I don't know how many games he started, but I know he started earlier in the season. And Taurean Prince was also another starter. They allowed them to pretty much make so many mistakes, especially Cam Reddish, and never, ever, ever get kind of face any consequences for the mistakes. Like there would be games where Cam Reddish would miss shots, he would not play defense, he wouldn't box out, and he would just keep continuing to get minutes, right? So that in itself creates frustration from other players who are watching, and like a guy like Max Christie or a guy like even like D'Angelo Russell, who Rui, who Austin Reeves, who all have been benched throughout this season, make it seem like, hey, like why can these guys make mistakes and I can't? Like, what's it with Cam Reddish? This Cam Reddish guy, he's been here for 2 months. Why is he able to make mistakes and I can't? I've been here for 3 years, 4 years. This creates a problem in the locker room because guys are confused about what happens, which leads me to my next point. Later on in the article, Jovan mentions how the confusion towards hand rotation even included his decision to split minutes between Vincent and February post buyout signings with Spencer Dinwiddie in the final weeks of the regular season and playoffs. This broke the rhythm of Dinwiddie as primary point guard as he shot 40% from three-point range, and he was among the team's plus-minus leaders after joining. And I think the Spencer Dinwiddie part being successful, I don't know what that has to do with anything, honestly. But I think it goes to show how the lineup changes and the inconsistency in them made it so players couldn't fully get the full potential that they were expecting while playing. Like Gabe Vincent, I don't know what his role was for the team. Like you ask me what these guys' roles were for the team, you don't know. And when you don't know what your role is for the team, you're just gonna go out there and do what you're best at. Whether it's shooting the ball, whether it's driving the basket, whether it's passing, not shooting it. Like this is what this creates when guys don't know their roles. Like, and that's what Ham caused. Later on in the article, it goes to pretty much state that Ham does not take accountability pretty much. And we've seen this over and over and over and over again. Ham not taking accountability. And this just is just one of the things that kind of irks my nerve about head coaches, especially coaches of basketball teams, is the guys that don't take accountability and they never last. Like Doc Rivers is probably the only coach to not take accountability for his faults and still have a job to this day. I would say I'm willing to bet money on that. And I could be wrong, but like there's guys across the board where coaches, I mean, where they say something and they just understand what they're like. You just understand, like, hey, like, okay, I said this. Hey, you know what? Exposure did it. He's like, I didn't put my guys in the position to succeed. Joe Mazzulla does it all the time. He always says, hey, it's my fault. Don't go after my guys. But Ham is on the other hand saying, yeah, these guys, didn't do so well. There's even a quote from Dave McMahon pretty much saying like, hey, like if my guy is shooting, if my guy can't buy a basket, he's missed his last 10 shots. What am I supposed to do as a rotation? Like he said that, hey, if D'Lo is messing up and he's not making any shots, what do you guys want me to do? Pretty much. And he kind of threw D'Lo under the bus. But in his defense, he was getting thrown under the bus a lot this year too. So I don't think anybody was right or wrong in the situation. I think there's a lot of blame to be passed around. That's what I'm saying. But essentially, Ham itself does not leave this area without any blame. Like he has 90% of the blame overall. Later on in the article, it goes on to say pretty much after the Lakers moved from Hachimura into the starting lineup, they went 19-6 to close out the season, and they were on a 62 win pace. Now, I'm not saying they were going to win 60 games. I said that at the beginning of the year. I was like, hey, this team can win 60 plus games, but they didn't, obviously, and they came to 7th seed. I just think that Ruby specifically, he's the guy when he's on the floor, he is very confident driven by the baskets he puts up. He plays better defense when he's scoring. He plays honestly better help defense when he's scoring, and he's just more into the game. But when you take him out the game, put him back in, reinsert him in and out, you're losing confidence. Maybe even losing his subconscious that you're like, hey, like maybe I'm not good enough, and it's just more of like a subconscious type of thing. But I think the overall thing with Rui is that he just needs to improve defensively better. Like I think that's the biggest thing. But throughout the stretch, when Rui was starting, they were the third best offense, and that was not an indication on. That wasn't an indictment on Ham. It was more an indictment of like these guys coaching themselves pretty much. Later on in the article, this is the last thing I'll say about the article, is they go over how LeBron James and the team pretty much were coaching themselves after February games against the Clippers during that 20 point comeback. And we got this. We remember what on the Mind the Game podcast where where LeBron James and JJ Redick podcast where LeBron James pretty much said that I decided pretty much to keep on switching with I think it was PJ Tucker I want to say over and over again and they weren't changing it. So it was more like a veto decision. Like LeBron decided to do that, not him saying like, "Hey, we should do this." So I just think at this point we're at a stage in the situation where I don't think Ham is going to change his coaching method or his coaching style. So where does that lead us? It leads us to getting new coaches, which I'm okay with. I don't know what coaches are out there. This is more of just, and I will talk about that later on during the offseason. I'm not going to talk about that today. But this is more of like, hey, like this is my opinion on why the Lakers didn't, you know, make it past the first round of the playoffs because this is honestly pitiful. We led majority of the series. We had the largest leads. We just lost them and we couldn't sustain them. And I think the three biggest things, the reason why we did was because we didn't know what we were doing offensively and defensively. That was proven by AD. AD said that. And my eyeballs told me that too. Number two, Darvin Ham doesn't know how to run, how to stop momentum. All right. And then number three, nobody knows their roles. And nobody knew their roles. And hopefully going on next season, whoever the coach is, whether even if it's him, he kind of supplements like, hey, this is your role. This is what you're supposed to do. This is where you're supposed to shoot. And this is how we're going to win. So, I mean, that's all I got for today. Honestly, I just think the Lakers itself were a disaster this season. And I hope we get better. Before I go, please like, subscribe, tune in to my podcast. We are doing this weekly, at least 2 episodes every single week. Appreciate the viewers, and we appreciate you even more once you subscribe.